Good morning, Armor Down. I've gotten to take a look at the new kind of landing page for the meditation cushions, and it looks good. That's all Adam Kennedy. So there's two of us that kind of make Armor Down the meditation cushion and uploading the practice happen. That's myself, and then the digital content director, Adam Kennedy. So when you see the new landing page and you see how awesome it looks, that's all Adam. So that's cool. So yesterday or last training on Tuesday, we talked a little bit about what the brain does. And I kind of told a little story about the brain and its ability to, or I shouldn't say the brain and its ability. It's more like where we've come from in our understanding of the brain, what we understand now, and let's add on the military experience. So the military experience creates an environment that attempts to help you understand how to thrive in a combat zone, but also how to live in this hierarchical structure so that you can fit into it, so that you can help it, so that you can help it achieve its mission. And so if you look at the brain as just this kind of thing that sits in your head and it's just this passive receiver of information, then you could basically just see yourself as just this cog in the big military experience, and then you're taken out of the military experience, and then your brain is just kind of like, it's trained for this, I can't do this. It's what we understand now is that's just too simplistic an understanding of how the brain actually works. So what's happening in basic training when they zero everything out and then they kind of re-articulate your understanding of the real world is your brain is learning how to create this reality. So I talked a little bit about that last time, this idea that your brain is what they're calling a predictive processor. It's at all times in a way that's 100 times more sophisticated than any of our technology. It's creating the world around us. It's creating corrections to its interpretation of the world around it by your senses. And it's doing that all the time at levels that are just maybe we'll never understand, but will always be unfolding for us. I remember when I was first taught meditation in a kind of a deeper way, they talked about how reality was these layers, and they used the word klesha. It's like these shells, and at each layer was this different element. Okay, well, science is coming to the same understanding. This shouldn't surprise us, as we are, veterans who are in the mind-body wellness meditation community. This stuff is now really getting out there. So anyway, these layers are what they also see in the scientific community. And in the scientific community, they explain the layers not so nuanced as in the kind of the old Buddhist text, ancient tradition stuff, but they have it in these really interesting frameworks. And so the framework kind of goes like this from the top down. So our highest level of prediction, our highest level of projection, creation, that we can kind of be aware of is thought, right? So that sits at the top. The highest level of abstraction that our predictive processors can send out is thought. And so think about your thoughts. You can go into the past, you can go into the future, you can do whatever you want in your thoughts. You've abstracted kind of the world and turned it into your plaything. And if you've got repetitive thoughts, if you've got PTSD, for example, your thoughts are predicting a world that your body is sending information up. So your predictions are going out, your body is sending information up. And if you've got PTSD, the sensations and information you're getting may not actually track on reality. That's part of what makes PTSD so tricky. So that's the top. Lower level is sensing, right? So you're sensing the world. So you've moved out of abstraction, you've moved out of thought, and you've come into sensing. Okay, and then from sensing you move into awareness, and then from awareness you move into just presence. So just empty of self. Imagine being with someone you love. Imagine being in a loving embrace. Imagine being in a firefight. okay, where the sense of self disappears and you're just in it, okay? So these are the layers, all right? That's from the top down. Now, you're also getting information from the bottom up. So your brain's predicting the world around you. It essentially is creating the world around you. It's testing, or it creates the world based off past information, and then it is testing its understanding, its prediction from the bottom up. So it's testing its projection with senses. So your senses are coming from the bottom up. The projection is coming from the top down, and they meet in the middle. And there's this complex interchange between what your senses are telling your brain, what your brain is processing and predicting about the future, and then how it all kind of evens out through precision, right? So as your brain is predicting out, it's like, okay, I need more precision. Where do I get that precision? I get it from my senses. Say you go into a dark room. The room's dark, right? So your brain has no. Your brain can only kind of imagine what's in there if it's been in the room before, but because it's projecting errors, right? There's these prediction errors that are coming out. I don't know. Actions can be taken. This guy named Andy Clark calls these actions epistemic actions. They're the actions that help us know what we know better. So you turn the light on. So all of a sudden, your brain's predictive ability becomes more precise, and the prediction errors become less and less solid. So the corrective errors, the predictive errors go down, the precision goes up, and you've got a reality that you can see and touch and all that other kind of stuff. So what I'm trying to get to is these layers, and the layers are the layers that we can attend to when we practice. So when we practice meditation, kind of meditation's that seated stillness in conjunction with the predictive mind, the predictive processor in meditation becomes less and less active. It gets quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter. You go down these layers. And the meditators that you just can't believe, the stuff that it seems like it's out of a fantasy novel, are the ones that can get all the way down to awareness and just turn it off. Now, you've experienced this in your life. You've probably never experienced it as practice per se, and that's why you practice to get to these levels. But if you're making love, right, and is truly making love, the sense of self's gone, right? So that's what the bottom, when you remove awareness, that's what that feels like. There's no self, right? When you're inside your senses and you're inside kind of the sensing layer, if you get into flow state, right? Flow state, that's another kind of variation of being fully immersed into the present moment. If you're up in your thoughts, one way to be with that is just kind of labeling. You say, oh, there's thought. That's a questioning. That's the past. That's the future. So these are just layers. But anyway, the point I want you to leave with today is there are layers, and part of what the practice that I'm going to introduce next week, which is going to be how we practice, how Armored Down practices with the 4 bells, is going through those layers. And so again, what I've hoped to left you with is this deeper understanding of what your brain actually does. It's a predictive processor. How it predicts and how it kind of organizes reality is in layers. This coincides with all the ancient traditions in terms of, and I shouldn't say all, but it very well maps onto the way the people who have been practicing this kind of stuff for thousands of years, it maps right on to what they've experienced and then what they've shared and what they've taught for generations. So it maps right on there. So layers, correlation between the past, what science is saying now, and then what I want to emphasize next week and want to leave you with today is that when you practice these layers, which kind of can seem like they're totally on top of each other, can start to have nuance and subtlety, and you can start to see them, and you can start to kind of break them down. And in your practice, you can see the layers, they aren't as solid, right? The analogy I used last time was that our beingness is kind of like the circle of a propeller when it's going, right? When the propeller stops, you see all the holes. Well, that's the same thing with practice. The more you practice, the more all these layers become transparent. And as they become transparent, you see that there's ways to move your awareness through them, ways to interact with the layers. And then at certain instances, the layers can disappear. And it's cool. Like it's hard in that you got to practice, but it's really neat when it happens. So yesterday I was meditating when I got back from work, and the dog was eating and just making this sucking sound with his mouth. And I was just like, ugh. So I put all my attention into the corner of the room. And so as I put my attention in the corner of the room, my awareness of the dog sucking sound when he was eating disappeared. It disappeared for like a second and then it came back. But that's the stuff that's happening. That's the like I get, sports, and I get yoga, and I get all these things. But to me, those things are all what you do when you're ready to take on the master challenge. And the master challenge is the brain. The master challenge is the brain. So, it's also the thing that you can practice all the way up to the moment of death, right? You can't necessarily go into yoga poses when you're on your deathbed. You can't necessarily go into, your qigong practice when you're on your deathbed, but you can always be with this thing we call awareness and this thing we call the experience of reality, because that's your brain. That's your brain literally creating this and responding all at the same time in this really sophisticated way. And it's the ultimate, right? That's the ultimate practice, right? So that's where we're headed. That's what we're looking at. That's our goal is the ultimate practice, and that's meditation. But anyway, thanks for interacting with us. It's cool. See you.